alert, red alert, red alert, calling all concerned sales and marketing property professionals. Your undivided attention is highly required in this week's bulletin. You must read this letter closely as it may affect your sales and marketing career. True? No jokes? Believe me, every word of the newsletter you are about to read is gospel truth, even though some people may find it hard to believe, and even call it a big scam. Again, if you were told who these people are, you would never believe it in 100 years. True. In fact, this is indeed a shocking message of how few tenants had bad experiences in renting cheap houses to highly inflated dwellings within a short time. To be clear, the rental of some properties jumped to a 100% increase. On the other hand, landlords claimed that they are only reverting to the pre-COVID-19 pandemic price and because sudden high demand for house rentals. Without wasting more time, let's dwell deeper into this week's newsletter. Shall we? Thanks, here goes. Breaking news: tenant fear rent may go up. Believe it or not, property demand and high cost of living blame may be the cause. Johor Bahru, those renting rooms and houses here are concerned that the general rise in the cost of living could also extend to rented accommodation. Student management assistant, 35, Nurul Aisha Maduzov, who is currently renting a two-bedroom house in Taman Perling, said she and her husband went to great lengths to find a rented house that fit their budget. We are very lucky as after months of searching, we were able to find a two-story house that is only for Rm 450 a month. The house has not been renovated and there is not even a gate, but it is one that we can afford, said the mother of two. I am very worried that the landlord would one day increase the rent as other houses around this area are being rented out for Rm 700 to Rm 1000. The only difference is that the house I am renting currently is not renovated, Nurul Aisha said. She noted the rate for the house she and her husband used to rent in Skudai had increased from Rm 400 a few years ago to Rm 600 earlier this year. We have been renting at the previous apartment for about a decade, and over the years, the rental slowly increased. I hope that the house we are renting now would not see a similar increase anytime soon, she said. Preacher Johannes Tijan, 28, is currently paying more than double after moving to a new place about a year ago. My previous landlord wanted to sell his house and told us to look for another place. I used to only pay Rm 350 for the house, but I could not find another place with a similar rent these days. I ended up getting a double-story house with a monthly rental of Rm 800 per month, which is an extra Rm 450, he said. Johannes is also worried that the rent would increase in the next month. So far, my landlord has not told us anything, but I am still worried if that happens. It will be a great burden to me since the prices of goods are high these days, he said. Meanwhile, Lim Sien, 40, who owns several properties for rent around Johor Bahru, said the reopening of the border with Singapore had caused an increase in demand for rental properties. When the border was closed, we had to reduce our rental by at least half. We were operating at a loss as it cost a lot to maintain the properties. However, demand is now high again, and we can rent out the rooms at pre-pandemic rates. We are not hiking up the price, but merely reinstating prices to how they were before the COVID-19 pandemic, he said. Does that make good sense? You can bet your last dollar or ringgit it is. To recap the salient points, it can be briefly restated that the grave issue of residents are afraid that their lease may skyrocket. As said, this is indeed bad news as some renters have had shocking experiences renting cheap houses to heavily price-inflated dwellings in a short span of time. Moreover, if you recall, some properties' rents have jumped up to 100% even. Apart from this, landlords claim that they are only going back to the pre-COVID-19 pandemic price due to the suddenly high demand for rental apartments, etc. Truly, you don't need a rocket scientist to understand this situation. Armed with these facts and figures, we must ask ourselves this question: what can we do to alleviate the problem? My honest advice is to warn our prospects to understand the adverse situation and examine the pros and cons before deciding what kinds of property to rent before making any financial commitments. Agree or not? My parting gift to you is a memorable quote by Armstrong Williams. He is an American political commentator, entrepreneur, author, and talk show host. He says, "Now, one thing I tell everyone is learn about real estate. Repeat after me: real estate provides the highest returns, the greatest values and the least risk." P.S. Come to think of it, we know if it is a lengthy sales and marketing property newsletter, Yet we want to congratulate you for watching and reading this bulletin completely. Needless to say, since you have fully read this news, therefore, you now deserve more forthcoming weekly free bonus of chapters of the book How to Handle All Kind of Sales Objections. Additionally, we are eager to know which part of this sales and marketing property newsletter you learned most. Your feedbacks are critical so that we can help each other grow effectively. Lest you forget, these sharing will continue in YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and of course in our author, trainer, and consultant's email, josephsfn@gmail.com, upon request. Alright, thank you. We hope to meet you next week. Goodbye and best wishes. From me, yours truly, Madam Sophia, the virtual presenter to CTM Joseph. September 8, 2022.